Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Soundoff's Skype interviews. And today we're joined by a very talented musician who I must say is very well representing Asians in the United States, in New York to be specific. Of course, I'm talking about Miss Martina San Diego. How's it going,
Thank
Martina?
you. Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna jump straight into a question that I personally wanted to ask you. Uh, it pertains about Ivy Rose.
Hmm.
You guys got featured in Fox News and was part of one season of America's Got Talent. How did the band really came about?
Yes, so Ivy Rose formed when I was about 15 years old. So I was a sophomore in high school. And we are comprised of three sisters and myself. We all happen to be Filipino Americans and all girl band. And yeah, we've been fortunate enough to release two albums. We've gotten to perform for Weezer. We opened up for Weezer
No
and Ben
way.
Folds at University of Maryland, which was an amazing, amazing experience. Um,
Let me cut you there because you mentioned Weezer. How was the band in person?
Phenomenal, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Like they definitely live up to their recordings and so much better too in a live context. Like they perform really great live.
So yeah, going back to Ivy Rose, how did the idea came about? Were you guys bored in school? What happened there?
Um, so when I got introduced to them,
Yeah.
we we kind of threw the idea around about jamming together. The three of them were playing in another band, and I was also getting into performing more. Granted, we were all pretty young at the time, but for us, it was kind of like let's just see where this goes. Like we all were interested in music, and we all found out that we have similar tastes in music. So then I would come over and we would jam together, and then we started writing, and then all of a sudden we had like original material, and then we were like, why don't we play shows? So then it kind of just led from one thing to the next. But it's not like we sat down and we were like, let's form a band. Like once we got to know each other, then we were like, okay, let's kind of do this and let's see where it goes.
And you guys were doing pretty much well. Like I mentioned, you guys got featured in Fox News and America's Got Talent. So what led you to pursue a solo career?
So after I had graduated high school, I decided to take a gap year in the Philippines. And then while I was there, that's when I got a chance to explore a solo career, and I got to write more on my own. And then upon returning back to the US, I'm based in Virginia.
Okay.
And so that's where the band is based in DC, Maryland, Virginia. And once I returned to the States, I went straight to school in New York.
Let's talk about your roots a few steps back to before the Martina San Diego that we know now, before Ivy
Mhm.
Rose even. Which one of your parents is Filipino, by the way?
I'm full Filipino,
Oh,
so both of
cool.
my parents. Uh-huh.
But you were
Yeah.
born in the States.
Yes, born in the States.
So, how did you get into music? Was it through your parents for sure?
It was definitely through both of my parents in different ways. My mom has a beautiful voice, so I like to say I got my talent from her, even though she's very shy.
As we all do.
Um, and my father, um, he was always the performer. He was never shy to go up and like sing in front of people. So I do, attribute my interest in music to them. And also growing up in a Filipino household, like at a very young age at family parties, my grandma, uncles, and aunts, they were like, Marty, that's my family nickname,
Yes.
sing for us. And then I would go on the karaoke. So even at a young age, kind of fostering this music performance and
Do you still sing in karaoke bars now? I think that's a bit unfair, don't you think? So, what kind of music would your mom and dad be playing around the house?
So I grew up listening to artists that influenced me today because of them. They would play the Cranberries, The Cure.
Wow.
Those were the big ones, yeah. And they've influenced my music today.
Must be the coolest parents ever. The Cure, the Cure, Cranberries. What's going
Yeah,
on there?
not the typical,
I-
right?
If that was my mom, she would tell me to turn it down. So, yeah, after high school, I understand you went back to the Philippines.
Yes.
Why is that? What's the main reason for that?
I wasn't ready to go to college yet after high school, to put it very simply. I didn't want to rush myself, and so I'm very fortunate that my parents supported me in that decision. So they suggested, why not spend that time in the Philippines, get to know your roots and your heritage, and spend time with family that I don't normally get to. And I'm so thankful for that. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life thus far.
Since you mentioned it, yeah, how was the experience like? Did you try any local dishes there? What's your favorite Filipino dish anyway?
Ooh, that is so hard. My favorite Filipino dish. Um, right now,
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of is on the streets in the city downtown, like
Uh-huh.
any street food I
No
like.
way. Come
But
on.
there's this one specific one. It's like quail eggs that are dipped
Yes.
in like a orange kind
Yes.
of, yeah,
Uh, uh,
we call it
uh,
kwek kwek.
yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
that's what it's called. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one of the most amazing things ever. But aside from the food, what other part of that trip that would you say was most memorable to you?
So many things, but I guess a big one was it was really memorable seeing Cebu, Philippines. That's exactly where I'm from.
Yep.
Cebu in such a different light. Being a Filipino American and going home on vacation is such a different experience than living there for an extended amount of time. And, making relationships with the people that I made there and, really, really getting a better understanding of Filipino life and what the average Filipino goes through, those trials and
Eh,
struggles, every day.
That's pretty cool. Is it something that because we wouldn't know for us, like you didn't grow up in the States. Since you have now a point of comparison, what do you think is the main would be the main difference for an artist like you who grew up there in the States, and an artist, a Filipino artist, is growing up who came from the Philippines and he's still in the Philippines. What would you think it would be the main difference in terms of growth and maturity?
You know, I think the main difference in growth and maturity between an artist growing up in the States and an artist growing up in the Philippines is I think that actually, if you're an artist from the Philippines,
Yeah.
you mature faster than the
Oh,
ones here in the States.
how so?
You know, I can't speak for everyone on
Yeah.
that, but just knowing the struggle that people go through in a third world country, to be able, if you want to be an artist and you're from the Philippines, you are gonna mature way faster because, I'm sure there's a lot of people who either are like dependent on you for, to be the breadwinner of the family, or you
Oh,
have responsibilities that you need to, provide for others. And so if you want to pursue a music career, I think you really have to hustle more, kind of.
very well
Not
said.
saying not saying that artists here in the States don't hustle, but just being from a third world country, you have to naturally work harder.
Having said that, any areas for improvement, if any, when we talk about the local music scene, the Filipino music scene?
Yes, I think there's room for improvement. Anywhere, there's always room to improve and grow. I would say most specifically for Cebu, I think the music culture could improve. We could improve our appreciation for local music specifically. And I think that is growing slowly. And I think people are starting to pay more attention to Cebuano artists. But I would say that that's a place where we can always grow, appreciate where you're from and the artists from where you're from.
How would you describe the Cebuano Filipino music scene in your own eyes?
I would say that it's heavily influenced by Western music.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You like turn the radio on, and then it's all the pop hits from like the West,
Yes.
which is kind of true everywhere. But that's why I said it would be great, to really put more emphasis on like local artists and local musicians. So
Talking about your trip again back to Philippines. During that trip, it was when you actually met the guys from 22 Tango Records. Is that correct? And it was when through them you got to release Blank Walls.
yes.
How did that came about?
So Katsuki was the one who approached me, asked me if I would like to work on the project with her. And I'd heard of her prior, she's a very well-respected artist in Cebu. But then once I met her through mutual friends, and we sat down and we talked about the potential idea of working on this project together, and I was so excited just to work with someone who I respected so much.
Going back to New York now.
Yeah.
I can imagine the level of competition is very high there. How would you say, or how can an artist stand out from the crowd today?
Ooh. Honestly, just being yourself. And I ask myself this every day because, yeah, the music scene here is very inundated. There's artists everywhere, right? But being yourself, and that sounds kind of cliche, but no one has ever been you. And that's what I tell myself. Don't be afraid. Like, don't compare yourself to others. And, you'll stand out to the people who will recognize and appreciate, your art, your music, and can connect with you. So
You just mentioned that there's just so many artists now. Would you say that pursuing a music career is still something worth pursuing today?
it depends for what reason, you know. Um, for money, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that one person's career could unfold. If you're in it for fame or if you're in it because of your passion, like the reasons, it depends on what your reason is for getting into the music industry. So I can't really make that statement for everyone, it depends on what they want.
And of course, indeed, music it doesn't seem to be just a passing thing to you because, as you mentioned earlier, you're pursuing a degree in songwriting, I think, at the
Yes.
Unic. Yeah. So, is this a conscious decision for you that you have to be, you have to really make music as your the core of your life?
Yes, actually. I've come to realize that there's nothing else that makes me feel fulfilled. Music has made me feel like I have a purpose in this life and that there is something that I can give back and that I can create something that people can relate to and connect to. And I've never felt that way about anything else in my entire life, which is why, I made the conscious decision that I wanted to continue pursuing it in college as well.
So, how do you see yourself 2 to 3 years from now?
2 to 3 years from now, I would love to have a full-length album out. I would love to potentially tour and continue sharing music with more and more people.
Do you share this? I'm just curious. Do you share the same mindset as most artists? Because most of them that I get to talk to nowadays, they shy away from major labels now. It could be a good thing or a bad thing, but do you have the same mindset that I can do things on my own? I can do things independently in my own pace and time.
I definitely do not believe that anyone can do anything by themselves. Like, it's all about helping one another and kind of in this together, which is why I really believe with 222T, it's kind of like let's help each other, not let's help each other benefit kind of situation. Um, but yeah, I do definitely believe that by going independent, it gives you, the artist, the ability to make the decisions for yourself instead of if you were going to be in a bigger label and feeling manipulated and controlled. And nowadays with technology and just the way that our generation is, it makes it easier for indie artists to get their music out there. So pretty fortunate.
Having said that, how would you describe your music? What makes Martina San Diego different from any artist today?
I would say that I try to make my music as raw and organic as possible. Um, I kind of call it alternative folk. I play guitar and it's a very stripped, raw down sound. So even in the recordings, I didn't want to have it overproduced. I wanted everything to be very authentic, real, natural. And that's kind of the essence of my sound. You won't really hear too much going on. It's not going to be too busy. Very simple, a lot of emphasis on melody.
Any projects that you're working on right now?
Outside of writing and school
Yeah.
and working, it's hard to
Yeah.
even juggle those. But right now, I'm really just focusing on writing, writing, and writing.
How about a gig back in the Philippines, Cebu? Is that a part of your future plans?
I would love for it to be, but right now there are no no plans.
Considering, say, what you have experienced with Ivy Rose, with America's Got Talent, what would you say would be your biggest advice to musicians today? What's the biggest takeaway from all those experiences?
If you love what you're doing, don't let the bad days get to you because they will come, and don't let the negative people get to you because they will cross your path. If music is a career that you want to pursue, it's not going to be easy, but it could be one of the best things that you do in your life.
So, any message to your fans or potential fans, countrymen back in the Philippines?
I would love to say salamat kayo sa suporta. Thank you so much for all of the support. Um, I hope that I continue writing music that
Yeah.
you all can be proud of.
And you should, on behalf of your fans, because I'm one as well. Thank you, and we really wish you well. And as you said, please keep on making music that we would listen to.
Thank you. Thank you so much.